Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. My name is Tony. Thank you for joining us live. If you are catching us live and in reality here Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, thank you for joining us on this wonderful celebratory weekend. If you're in Canada here like with me, that's terrible grammar. So if you're up here in Canada with me, then this is our Canada Day long weekend, with Friday being Canada Day, July 1st. And if you're in the States, well, hey, you're in your July 4th long weekend, and sort of a preemptive happy 4th of July for the start of next week. So thank you for joining us on this celebratory weekend. Great times both north and south of the border of North America, and of course, all across the world for all our various viewers. If you are catching us on the replay, then thank you for taking the time. And if you are wondering what in the world, Tony, is this thing you call Star Trek New Worlds, it is a 4X turn-based strategy game that we play here online with you, streaming it to you live on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook Live, and showing it to you in all its colorful glory using a platform called Vassal. We play the game using the rule set as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau for a game called Federation and Empire. And yeah, we explore the fun-loving conflict that is a war game, but we add our homebrew rules and, of course, elements of role play. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, in today's exciting episode, again, big shout out to Daniel for writing up our Galaxy Today headlines. These are awesome, and I can't help but use them. War marches on, but is it getting tired? In the east, the combined Reman ISC war machine continues to push south, capturing more planets and resources. As the seemingly unstoppable red and yellow tide rolls south, some wonder how much longer till the economies of all combatants. Whoa, ladies and gentlemen, the Juggernauts have just caffeinated this one. Incidentally, I'm going to talk about that weird looking thing in the middle there in just a moment. Let me finish with the headlines, and then I'll get back to what we're going on here. Okay, as seemingly unstoppable red and yellow tide rolls south, some wonder how much longer till the economies of all combatants begin to strain under the effort. Raiders of the Lost Ships. A Juggernaut raider fleet has rampaged through Klingon space, attacking 2 task force as they were mustering in the area. Several F4 destroyers have apparently been destroyed. Clearly, this is Juggernaut what the Klingons had planned for this season. Terrible. Threading the needle. A strand of Tholian web has been seen in the east. Tholian forces have moved through the wormhole at November 26 to claim the world of Armageddon. Handed over to their care by the Hydran government, the ribbon cutting ceremony was unceremoniously interrupted by a Reman fleet under the command of Wolfman. Everyone remembers that DJ, who apparently decided that the Remans were better custodians of the world. Here today, Gorn Tomorrow. Rumors abound that there is a state of war between the Gorn and the Romulan empires after the policing action across the neutral zone. Is this the start of renewed hostilities or just a brief misunderstanding between neighbors? Only time will tell. I find it quite appropriate that we're talking about the Gorn, especially considering this week's episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. For those of you who haven't already seen it, I strongly recommend it as it really scratches that itch for me. But we will not go into an in-depth discussion of all things Trek on TV, but rather discuss what is that weird-looking thing on the screen right there. Well, as you already know, you can support this wonderful channel. I might be biased, with a coffee. Ooh, there we go. Coffee. Coffee being the link that you see down there in yellow. But of course, if that's not your style and you would rather use your device to capture that QR code that is in the middle there, you can take your device, put it up to the screen, and it will take you with your device to the coffee donation page, if that is your style. If you're more a Patreon kind of person, no problem. We accept donations of all types, in the sense that if you like what we're doing and it's fun for you, then please consider heading over to either Coffee or Patreon and joining our community of members who support us. And of course, if you are a first-time viewer, don't feel that you need to coffee it up right now. Be like Jeffrey Kinzer down there, and be a subscriber. Help us get towards the 250 milestone, which is the middle mark, towards 500, which is where we're trying to get to unlock the community tab here on YouTube. Yes, these milestones that YouTube kind of creates to be able to offer more content in different ways to be able to interact with all of you. So thank you, Jeffrey, for joining us as part of our community, and for all of you who have already joined us and are joining us live right now as I minimize this screen. Here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the double digits for our live stream. Thank you very much to you, all of you wonderful people who are joining us here live. Feel free to hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Tickle the YouTube algorithm in just the way that it likes to be touched. Not like that. All right, before we get into the exciting map display that will be today, let's get into the community and talk about the chat. Eugene, I'm just going to start off. Eugene, you are my... I swear to God, you got to be like a press agent or something. You are so good at this. Okay, so before we get into Eugene, Jim, first man in the lobby. Fusion beams beginning to warm up. Nuclei excitement initiated, because after all, Jim likes getting excited. Eugene, oh no, Juggies setting up the Klingons. Divide and conquer before the Klingons come out an offensive to try and capture a Juggie and be the biggest, baddest on the block. Oh, the week's wait is coming to an end. Updates on the horizon. Is the stable platform sighting a Juggie or a pirate or something else? One more time. How can the Klingons keep up the peace with the legendary E1 commander, maybe? In the FTZ, if the FTZ is not even explored, I'm sure that all of this and more will be revealed in this week's episode. Well, far be it from me to deny you what it is you're looking for, Eugene. We'll get to that in a moment. But let's say hello to Jim and Daniel. Pew pew in the comments. Paul is in the house with the crying, laughing. Dell, also the dynamic duo of the Remans and the ISC. Bill Smitty, the Gorns are in the house, and Lord Lawless has joined us fresh, bright and early this morning. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Let's get into the excitement that is the map. I'm going to come in on the far side here, and we'll start off seeing as the this week's episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds was talking about the Gorn. Let's talk about the Gorn and the Romulans to start things off. So as we can see here, well, far be it from me, before I jump in, let me do the classic EP and fleet cap summaries so that we can all be on the same page here when it comes to what is going on. There's EP, fleet cap is incoming. There we are. We'll just expand that ever so slightly, and we will scroll up so that it's a little easier to see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, going down the list of who makes the most money. The Carnarvon are at 44, still stable, making lots of money, and of course they're in a wartime economy, I believe. And if they are, then they're making all that 44, that sweet cheddar cheese. The Federation at 41, we will have to check out how their kitty cat situation is going on. But 41, the Gorn sitting pretty at 43. Ooh, again, if we go back to the beginning of the game, the lowest economy and now near the top. Very interesting. The Hydrons have been reduced to a dozen, 12 EP, whereas the ISC have risen, it would seem, to the top of the heap at 50 and a half. 50 and a half total economy for those bad boys in yellow. Wow, that's impressive. The Klingons are at 48.48, same as last turn. The Illyrans are at 40 and a half. The Remans, 44 and a half. Their economies continuing to rise. The Romulans at 41, and the Tholians at 48 and a half. So, ladies and gentlemen, the peak, the king of the hill, has changed. It is now officially the ISC. Biggest, baddest military in the game, and now the biggest economy. Very interesting to see. Let's go to fleet cap and see who's who in the zoo when it comes to ships in the milieu. So Carnarvons have a total of 84 ships. They are growing fast. Watch out. They have a 207 poppin' 200, 207 to 360 split for attack and defense. The Federation have 61 ship totals. Total ship equivalents. There we are. 61 is the magic number with a 160-260 split for their attack and defense. The Gorn are at 44 for total ships. They have a 93-185. They are building more ships. They are slowly creeping towards the 100 mark. Once they pass that milestone, it'll be interesting to see what happens. The ISC, still the biggest fleet in the game. Are they? Nope, not the biggest, but they are close. At 93 ship equivalents, 291 attack factors, and 415 on the defense factor. Wow, that is insane. The Klingons are trying to play catch up with 61 ship equivalents and now a 165-261 split. Interesting to note, the Feds and the Klingons have the same number of hulls and almost the same attack and defense factors. Very interesting to see. The Lyrans are at 58 total ships with 138-274 split. The Remans are at 113. Again, triple digits when it comes to the total number of ships that they have floating around. 113 with, get this, 335. 335 attack, 439 defense. Wow. That's scary. The Romulans are at 54 with a 150-237 split, and the Tholians with 57 total ships, 81 attack factors, 222 in the defense factor column. So quite the combination. As we can see, the ISC and the Remans are still king of the hill when it comes to the military they're bringing. The Remans still top of the pack when it comes to the size of their fleet, with the ISC being the biggest economy. But those two factions are definitely ruling the roost when it comes to this particular game. But let's go down to border tensions that seem to be rising above just a little pirate spat. Here we have the Gorn and the Romulans. Now, what was going on here? Just as a quick recap, there was a Orion base in Romeo 42 here, and there had been a strike of Strike Fleet across the border, I believe. I think it was Strike Fleet, but nonetheless, ships crossed the border, blew up that base, and came back. A lot of discussion back and forth as to what's going on. Key thing to take away here. In the rules that we have, once you cross a neutral zone or a predetermined border like this, you go to war status. And you can change your war status, go back to peace or limited war or these other economic statuses, but there is a time limit associated with that. So effectively, when you change your economy, you have 4 turns that you must stay in that economic state before you can revert back to something else or change. So you can go to limited war, got to be in limited war for 4 turns, and you can escalate to war if need be, or revert back to peace. Nonetheless, the idea here is that there is it takes time to ramp up and or scale down your economy, and that can only change so often. And so, again, it takes time to do these things, and that's what's going on here when it comes to the conflict between them. Both of these states are at an economic state of war, and but there is no actual conflict happening between them. Is this a gaming of the system? Or is it merely an evolution of some of the diplomacy that's been going on? It is true that the Gorn did cross the border. What were the circumstances around that? Only the role-playing will tell, that you can dive into if you join us on our Discord channel. If you haven't already, feel free to check out Coffee, and that's the link above me, and or Patreon for the link to be able to hit one of those support levels that be able to join us on our Discord channel. But in the role-playing, there is some interesting stuff going on with regards to the dynamic between the Romulans and the Gorn. Was it a false flag operation? Was it a tease? Some kind of fake conflict to be able to drive some kind of change in economic status? Who knows? We will have to see. But what we can see on the map is a lack of conflict between these two factions. There's no war. There's no fleet-to-fleet interaction. We've got instead what looks like almost cooperation with the various fleets in the top of their various space moving towards the center. We can see the Gorn have Vengeance Fleet here. Gorn named fleets. So, oh my goodness. So Vengeance Fleet is a Dreadnought, a light, let me just make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. Dreadnought, light cruiser, 3 DDs, a YFF, and a commando cruiser here, along with the prime team. So this is really sort of an exploration in force kind of situation, which is what's going on here with this Y convoy. Now, is the Y convoy going to build another base or provide extended supply? Who knows? But we shall see. Then, of course, we have these exploration cruisers right here, and then a tug. So between the convoy and the tug, I see bases being built as they push into the center of the map. Of course, the mobile fleet. Mobile fleet is the W-era battleship with a number of other W-era ships to be able to sort of maintain security at the YDK and the wormhole that's there. Interesting to note the... oh, no. We'll get to the Tholians in a minute. But as we can see, a lot of exploration energy going into what's going on here with the Gorn. The Romulans still pushing at the top of their map. And as we go south, we can see it continues into this little pocket, this little elbow that's happening here. So a lot of activity there. Interesting to note the number of wormholes, again, and the location of various ships. We can see that there's the gravity well here, and we'll get to where that goes in a minute. Basically, it goes into... the area that is currently being occupied by the ISC that used to be Hydron. And so there's First Legion. Let's just take a quick look at First Legion. Ooh. First Legion, the Vulture, Kingbird, which is their command cruiser, Warbird, which is their cruiser, YSN, a frigate, and a YFB, which is their tug. So interesting, not a massive fleet that could, absolutely change the stakes, but not nothing, and a very interesting sort of display of force. What's with that gravity well, of course, nothing can come through it to Romulan space, but the Romulans can go through it into what will end up being, or what is now, ISC space. So very interesting to see how that's all going on. Interesting to note the troop transport, the troop assault ship sort of in the south here, which is interesting. And of course, 3rd Legion, Romulan legions. Whoop, 3rd. There we are. Oh, interesting. So, interesting. So this is so there's a crippled ship here, and I'm not familiar exactly how that might have gotten crippled, other than maybe taking out some Orions. But interesting to see that we've got 2 command cruisers, a number of cruisers and frigates with a tug here, maybe just providing some additional security should something pop into that area of space. But good to know that the Romulans are continuing to explore and, of course, grow their economy, which is very, very good. Let's creep up the edge of the map towards the Tholians, and we'll here, I'll move the Gorn here. As we can see above my head, I'll move down one area. So above my head, we can see that there is this wormhole where a number of Hydran ships have come through. A couple of things to note here. One, the Hydran tug, what was the name? War, I think it was. That ship has been commandeered and or taken by the Tholians, and it is currently occupied or occupying this hex. You can see there is the WTG Hydran, which is the Hydran tug. It has a 1-5. 1 attack, 5 defense. 2 YPCs. There were 3. There are still 3. 1 is crippled, 2 are not. And those are sitting over top of the wormhole right now. Interesting. There are, again, 3 YPCs, 1 crippled, 2 not, that are just south of Armageddon. And as was mentioned before, this particular Reman ship, maybe there was more to this. There must have been more to this fleet. We have the KE-2, which is just a frigate, currently occupying that planet. Very interesting that it was ceded to or handed over to the Tholians by the Hydrans, and now there's a little pushback and forth between the Remans and the Tholians. Obviously, as has been the theme for the ISC and the Remans, they don't respect any and all of these borders. Rather, they are just pushing forward again and again and again. So above my head there, you can see the red wave is, or the red tide, shall we call it, is coming south, and is bumping up against another sort of red ebb, which is the Tholian. So red on red action here with the green in the background. So very interesting to see that. Let's go back to Tholian core space here. We've got so they have 3 large exploration freighters, one at the top here with a crippled YPC, interesting to note. Then you've got another one here and another one here. These are their main exploration ships, and you can see them, of course, continuing to push towards the center. These 2 have a particular note. These 3 YCPCs, these are basically kind of like tugs, or operate as tugs, and they can build bases and various things. You can see there's a base here. I expect there will be a base here shortly and another base here once the Tholians sort of start building that stuff. However, the Tholians are at war status, and they have one of the biggest economies in the game. So now that they're at war status, what's going to happen? What are they going to build, and how are they going to move forward? Very interesting to note. This has been one of the things we've been sort of worried and concerned about when it comes to the Tholians. They have been growing their size when it comes to their economy and their power. What happens when they decide to drop that hammer? Much like we saw with the Remans and the ISC and their buildup, the Remans had the biggest, baddest fleet in the game, and what's happened when they've decided to drop their hammer? Well, we've seen that the collapse of Hydran space. Now that the Tholians are getting involved, how is that going to pan out? What is the current state of their technology when it comes to the wormhole tech? Now, for just generally speaking, there are various tiers of wormhole tech. Once you have discovered a wormhole, explored it, and traveled it, then you can start to research and make progress on this technology. And it has various stages, one stage of which, quite a ways along, is to be able to have slow-moving ships, i.e. convoys and supply, move through the wormhole. And once that happens, then you can project force really through those wormholes. Ships won't be crippled as they go through, and you can run supply through wormholes. Meaning, in this W wormhole, you have a base that can project supply, assuming supply 3. It'll go 1 hex into the November hex, 2, 3. It would be able to provide supply up to Armageddon, assuming they have supply 3, and I expect they may have supply 4. Probably pretty likely. So we'll see. Very interesting. What else do we have going on? This is the thing that catches my attention right here. Goodness gracious. They have a diplomat with a cruiser sitting on this Kzinti planet. Boy, this has got me churned up. It is a medium planet, meaning it'll be a 4 income if it's flipped. It is currently friendly towards the Tholians. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Galaxy Unite. We have to get the Kzinti back on a hostile footing with the Tholians. We got to fight back and make sure that there is a catastrophic failure in their diplomacy so that bad things happen for the Tholians with regards to the Kzinti. Because these guys, this faction, this planet, has a pretty significant fleet. Specifically, Kzinti, home fleet. Look at this. So they have, 6 frigates, 3 light cruisers, 3 strike cruisers, a command, and a dreadnought. That is going to be more than enough, especially considering the offensive firepower of the Kzinti to hold back any Tholian advance. And if they are so inclined, they can reach out and touch, in a bad way, the Tholians. So I'm kind of torn because I don't want to see the Tholians continue to make progress here. It's got me tense. Got some anxiety. I'm gonna have a sip. Okay. Let's scroll up to La Fédération. Very interesting to see what's going on here. Okay, so a couple things. We saw that they had this Paravian planet show up in the top right corner, right? This is a colony, so 1 EP. Interesting to note, they are not taking it by force. Interesting to note. They also have a Kzinti faction here, which is currently sort of at war with the Federation. They have a number of ships in the area. You can see they have a base here with a cruiser, a destroyer, and a frigate. And then they have a number of cruisers with their prime teams continuing their exploration. They also have 8th Fleet here, which I believe is just another cruiser with a prime team. But let's just confirm. Oh, you can't see that. All right. Yeah, so it's a cruiser, frigate, prime team. So nothing too crazy. But the Kzinti definitely have a force, shall we say. If we look at the Kzinti Constable Fleet, which is the fleet that's on station, we can see, again, this is 5 frigates, 2 drone bombardment frigates, a light cruiser, a strike cruiser, and a dreadnought. Not nothing, and certainly something to be concerned about when dealing with the Federation like this. Okay, so what do they got? They got home fleet in close proximity within a movement range, operational movement range of attacking. Let's take a look at their home fleet and what do they got? Oh, here it comes. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the hammer is coming. 2 command cruisers, 3 cruisers. So that's a lot of firepower. That alone is 20 attack factor. Then you've got how many destroyers? I'm going to guess 3, 4 destroyers and 6 frigates, along with these 2 commando cruisers, each with a G factor. So very interesting to see the fleet that they're bringing to attack. The Kzinti, I think, will have an advantage when it comes to, obviously, with the defense. They have a lot of planetary ground bases, specifically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have 5 planetary ground bases and, of course, a YDK. So they have the EW advantage as well as the repair capacity. It'll be very interesting to see how this goes. One thing to note, the Federation player, Bill Linton, is quite an experienced, or rumor has it, an experienced Federation Empire player. I will be interested to watch and see the outcome of his battles with the Kzinti and how that turns out. Because at some point, the Federation is going to get into a fight with somebody else, and it'll be interesting to see how they interact with those other factions. What else we got going on here? We can see that the other Kzinti faction is indifferent to them at the moment, neither liking nor hating, but nonetheless sitting there with a diplomat and a couple frigates to be able to support the diplomat. We've got various other tugs and cruisers continuing their exploration on the west side of the map. And of course, particular for me, because this wormhole goes into Klingon space, let's take another look at 7th Fleet. And we can see we've got a total of 5 frigates and now 2 cruisers. So not much difference. There had been a slight change in the number of ships sitting over top this wormhole, but effectively not much different now. Interesting to note that 2nd Fleet here still hasn't discovered this fog of war hex. They know, of course, that wormhole's there, but it's still a fog of war hex and hasn't been explored. Very interesting. A couple of crippled ships here, cruisers looking to get repaired, and 3rd Fleet. 3rd Fleet's in a strange spot. What's the deal with 3rd Fleet? Oh, a couple of crippled frigates and other than that, named ships, CC, CL, so command cruiser, light cruiser, destroyer, and a frigate, just kind of chilling out there. Kind of curious what happened that they got crippled in that neck of the woods. Do tell. Do tell. All right, before I jump into the Lyrans, let's just jump into the chat. I can see there's quite a bit going up and down there. Let's take a quick look. Boom, boom, boom. Bill saying an evil Orion egg smuggling scheme. Ooh, that is why he crossed the border and did bad things. ROMs and Hydrons equal buddies, Dell says. I wonder. Correction, Tony. It is occupied Hydron space. Right. What is it? Possession is 9/10 the law. We'll see. Dell. No, it's Reman space. Daniel Eastland. Cat Astrophic Kzinti relations. I see what you did there. Yes. Chuck saying, afternoon, geeks. Oh, welcome, Chuck. We're going to get to you in just a moment. Speaking of kitty cats. Afternoon, Mr. Liren, Dell says, and a massive geeks, if you don't mind. Massive with that accent. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into the excitingness of the layer map. Oh, before I jump onto the layer map, quick question for you to slide into the comments here. Have you tried... There we go. Have you tried that QR code? Does it work? How are you finding it? Very curious because I have yet to. I've tested that it works on my phone, but I'm curious if it works for you when you use the phone, and away you go. Let me know how that works for you. If you can use your phone on the screen, or if you're watching this on your phone, does it work at all? Would be curious to know sort of what works best for you. All right. Quick acknowledgement. We are at 15. I think we were at a peak of 17 at one point there for concurrent viewers. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us live. If you are with us live, please ping in on the notes and let us know where you're calling in from or where you're watching from, and what's your experience level with Federation Empire. Is it a game that you've played before? Is it a game you're looking forward to playing? And so on and so forth. For those of you who are joining us in our Into the Void campaign, quick announcement about them at the end of the episode or at the end of the stream today. So quick announcement about that at the very end of the live stream after we've done the roundabout or around the galaxy, so to speak. And we'll check in with that as well. Eugene makes a quick note. Missed a note. P43. Oh, P43. Let's go back to the map and see what happened in P43. P43... the captured, oh yeah, so the captured KE1 has been there for some time. It came through, I believe it was this wormhole down here, one of these wormholes, and slowly wandered its way up here. The Remans effectively handed it over to the Gorn, and it's been a captured KE1 for some time. So it's been on the map, just not particularly highlighted for any particular reason. All right, but thanks for... sharp eye there, Eugene, as far as noting it and seeing it there. All right, the Lyrans, ladies and gentlemen, the space lions, mountain lions of the game. What is going on with these folks? Let's just dive in. Okay, they are continuing to explore and push to the east, or sorry, I should say the center of the map. We can see that their exploration cruiser is going to take advantage of exploring some of this neutral zone as well as their exploration freighter. The tug, I gotta say, is the tug going to build a base here? Because that would make sense. It would really be like a touch point to sort of close off the Remans if that's what you wanted to do. But of course, continuing to explore and find new resources. Other than that, let me just take away the ships for a sec. Oh, I can see there is a new base going up along the border here to be completed shortly. And what else? I don't see any other sort of construction, although we are polishing off the last bit of unexplored space in the top back end or backyard of the Lyran Empire. Far Stars fleet. Let's just take a quick look at the Far Stars fleet. Lyran Far Stars. Far Stars fleet continues to be okay. So a couple of DDs and W era frigates sitting there over top of the wormhole. Not much else, as we've seen. The Lyrans haven't particularly grown their fleet that much. Of course, why do they need to? It seems like, and Chuck, you correct me if I'm wrong. No, that's not a Romulan. I'll get to you. Get to that comment there in a second, there, Eugene. So, Chuck, throw into the comments there as to what is going on when it comes to your plan, your intent, what's going on, your focus right now, which would seem to be the exploration, and of course, getting yourself towards the center and rounding the corner of the borders that you have with the Federation and the Remans. Just to comment on Eugene's comment there, yes, so the colors between the Romulans and the Remans is almost the same. The difference is two things. One, the Remans are the Klingon versions of those ships. So you can see here, it looks a lot like a Klingon ship. And when you look at the counter, white text, red and black counter. If we go up and you can see some of the other Reman counters up here, you will notice the same color scheme. So just to note, red and black is Romulan, or straight Romulan, I should say. And the Remans are a white text, red counter, black Klingon iconography for the ship. So just for a little clarification there. Yep, that's a Reman ship, and it's a long time captured at this point. All right, so the Lyrans are continuing to polish off the backyard, working towards the middle, and a little bit of base building along the way. Very interesting to see, and I'm curious to see how things are. Ooh, there's a lot going on in the homeworld. Home, blood, and hidden. Let's take a quick look at home fleet. Oh, look at this. YCCs, WCA, YCL. So not an insignificant fleet at the homeworld. Huh, interesting. Blood Claw. Let's take a look at Blood Claw fleet. Oh, nothing in Blood Claw. Fair enough. And Hidden Dagger. Oh, goodness. I'm trying to remember where the Hidden Dagger is. There it is. Bang. All right. So Hidden Dagger is a DNCC. So there's quite a collection of ships around the homeworld. I'm wondering what's going on there. Is there an upgrade path for some of these ships? I don't know the upgrade path for some of the Lyran ships, so it'll be very interesting to see if some of these ships get modified. Let's see here. Blood Claw fleet. Maybe that's... there we are. So that's Blood Claw. There we go. So it's just the my wrong fleet box there. So CCCL, couple DDs. So really, between these three fleets, there's quite a collection of ships here over top the capital. Kind of curious why so many ships on the capital, not on the extremes, although, why not? Just interesting to note the positioning of it, obviously protecting your key assets, and interesting to note sort of how this is going to go forward. So really curious, Chuck. What's tech build up? There is part of my fleet none of you can see. Oh, well. Oh, okay. Interesting. All right, let me switch my head to the other side. Straight on through to the other side. And then let's tie in with the Remans. Okay, so the Remans is going to be kind of a combo of Reman and ISC because they're stretching so far across the map. Okay, so let's just start off with the top and work our way down. We can see, of course, that the sort of, we'll call them the static fleets that are along the Lyran border, not much has changed there. Prometheus and New. No big changes for those particular fleets. There we go. You've got a couple frigates, a destroyer, a couple of cruisers, There we are. And then New Fleet. Oh, well, New Fleet's a little bit more robust, but nothing too crazy. A couple of W-era cruisers, destroyers, 6, 7 frigates, and then a W-era frigate. So nothing too crazy, nothing out of balance when it comes to the Lyrans, but very interesting to note sort of the progression of where everything is. Note this is a tug building a base here. Interesting to note. I am assuming going to facilitate the continued exploration down into this corner. We have Solar, Pegasus, Planet is here, Atlantic, and Columbia Fleet. Okay. Wow, there's quite a few here. Let's pull up. We'll start with Columbia and Atlantic and see what is going on there. Is it Atlantic? Atlantia, sorry. Atlantia Fleet. There we are. So that's the one just in behind here. And then there's Columbia Fleet with 2 tugs nearby. Columbia. There we are. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, Columbia Fleet's not nothing. 3 cruisers. 6. Another 6. And 2. So that's 14 destroyers. 9 frigates, and then a crippled frigate, and then of course 2 prime teams. Very interesting with the tugs in tow. Interesting. Let's just take away the ships for a sec. Interesting. Okay, so they have very interesting. So they're plugging that hole without a doubt, and they've got this planet here, which is a supply node. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out with the Tholians and what happens there. Yeah. What else we got? We got, of course, they've taken this Klingon resource, former Klingon resource now, and there's a Klingon, or sorry, a base. This is their infrastructure, their base network. Let me take away the ships real quick. So you can see there's this line of bases, both between bases and planets, that is providing them supply straight to the border. That's huge. Interesting to note, they've claimed this resource, but they don't have an ability to collect it. It's not within supply. Even when I bring back the ships, there's no tug in a reasonable distance to be able to provide its supply. So even though this is a quote unquote claimed resource, it's not actually contributing anything to their economy. In past games, this was represented by the fact that if it was not within your supply reach, then you couldn't actually claim the resource. You could make it neutral, like eliminate it from somebody else's possession, but you couldn't actually claim it because you didn't have supply to it. You couldn't provide the resources to be able to control it. So interesting to note, in this game we've claimed it. It's not positively contributing to the economy. And the same thing happened with the Klingons in that sense. Like, the resource was ceded to the Klingons, but we had no infrastructure there, no ability to provide resources. So it is what it is. Interesting. So we've got Cerberus Fleet. Let's look at Cerberus Fleet. Excuse me. Somewhere here. There we are. Oh, Nelly. Look at this hammer coming down the pipe. All right. 4 cruisers, a command cruiser, a Dreadnought KC-4, along with 6, 7, 8 destroyers with a crippled destroyer in tow, 6 frigates with 2 crippled in tow. This will be a very interesting combo. Particular note here, the ISC, or sorry, the Tholian rather, the Tholian faction having a wormhole right here. This, let me just take away the ships real quick and the bases. This is the W wormhole, which if we scroll down over my head, it's this wormhole right here. The November wormhole, so the November one shows up here. The W one shows up here. So two different vectors of attack into their space. Very interesting. And of course, big fleets from the Remans in and around that area to be able to help defend it. So very interesting to see. Okay. Let's take a look at the ISC. The ISC, just in close proximity here, we have Justice Fleet. Let's, of course, the named echelons just make it easier to track. So what do we got? We got Justice Fleet. Justice is a command cruiser and 5 count them, 5 destroyers sitting over top of one of their YDKs along with a tug. Oh, interesting. So they've upgraded that base into a YDK. Would you stop? There we are. So tug, YDK, 2 crippled frigates, and Justice Fleet. So those can easily be repaired, and away you go. The big news, of course, from the ISC perspective is all this disputed hex. So let me take away the ships and bases real quick. So, well, I'll leave the bases so you can see. But basically, this entire area is now under a disputed hex system. So over the next 6 turns, if enemy ships don't finish their turn in one of those hexes, this entire area will become ISC. And then, but I mean, it's kind of a moot point because, as you can see, all the resources and the planets in the area are already claimed by the ISC. And they're continuing to push south. Let's bring back the ships real quick. So interesting to note, of course, the push that's going on here. Okay, so we've got, from the ISC side, we've got a YDK that's been upgraded here. That's excellent, with a tug and a marshal team. We got another tug and a marshal team. I'm going to expect them to build another base here just to facilitate access to these resources. Oh, there's a planet there. Okay, so there's a planet there. So if they build a base here, they'll connect the planet to the rest of their supply network, because right now it's an isolated supply grid, and that'll connect everything. So that's good. So if they build a base there, mutual support, and then of course they can eventually get that into their network. In addition, they've got what is this? Crippled light cruiser and destroyer. And of course, the big stack right here, we've got Truth and Third. So let's look at Truth real quick. Truth is 9 light cruisers, 2 destroyers, 2 marshal teams, 2 cruisers, and a dreadnought. So not nothing without a doubt. And then there's Third. Let's just pull up ISC Third Fleet, which I'm sure is going to be. Oh, it's not that big. It's 4 destroyers and a light cruiser sitting on top of here, with 2 commando cruisers and a crippled destroyer and another destroyer just kind of helping out. Interesting. So more than enough to be able to hold the planet. And in addition, they've got Enforcement Fleet and a YCC here. Enforcement Fleet being this massive stack of a Dreadnought, I guess 2 YCCs if you include the one that's there, CA, 7 CLs, and 2 DDs. It's an interesting combination the way the ISC player is, Paul, is sort of configuring his fleets. Obviously, the CL is the staple ship that he's using, and to great effect, but very interesting to see that sort of that distribution. We can see there's a number of destroyers in the south here. Ooh, 2 CLs, 3 DDs, 2 DDs, and then Law Fleet. Where's Law Fleet? Law Fleet is 2 CLs and 2 DDs, one of them crippled. And of course, being harassed by the combination of Hydran and Carnivon forces. Let's take a quick look at the Hydran forces that are harassing them. Let's see here. We got 4th and new. So Hydran, I'm getting a little bit tunnel visioned here. I apologize. Let me finish off with the Hydrans, and then I will come up for air and we'll go into the chat. Again, this is the first time I'm seeing this map, so I see these maps essentially at the same time you do. I open them up on the day of and do this live stream. Why? Because, let me take a moment and I'll just come right back here. Because I do that, that's when I get the turns. I get the turns on this, usually the Saturday morning or late Friday night. So I'll get the turn and then I get to see it basically the same time you do. With all the setup for the live stream ahead of time, I don't necessarily get to see this stuff. I don't get to see this stuff before you do. So let's take a moment and just chime in with the chat real quick. Chuck is saying, tech build, and there's part of my fleet none of you can see. Yep, and some upgrades and reorganization. So not much more else here to talk about on the chat. I guess we're going back in to the Hydrans. All right, so that 1 4th fleet over here in the corner is just 1 ship, a couple Vols, and what's Hydran new fleet? Where are you? There we are. Hydran new fleet. So a DN and a Vol. So we've got basically a DN and 4 Vols with a diplomat. Oh, interesting. Okay, so one of the interesting things to note is the Hydrons, after they've repositioned themselves on their new home planet, don't have a lot of money to build slipways. Build slipways that you need to build the slipways in order to have ships to fight. So basically the Hydrons just don't have ships to be able to oppose the IC in their continual sort of march forward. We can see here that there is a 5th fleet on top of this YDK, or sorry, the YBS, I should say. Hydron 5th fleet, there you go, as par for the course, 1 ship in a fleet box. Love it. He says sarcastically. So we got a base there, a base here, 2 hexes away, and there is 2nd fleet there. So let's take a look at 2nd fleet. So 2nd fleet is actually something of substance. We've got a DN, 2 CCs, 6 vols, and a crippled vol. So that'll probably be repaired. I guess 2 of those vols can get repaired this turn, based on how quickly vols can be repaired. And then, of course, they got Iron Fleet. So let's take a look at Iron Fleet. Ooh, Metal Fleets, I'm going to guess. There we go. Iron Fleet is a DD and 2 vols. Nothing too crazy. Then we have a bunch of crippled vols and looks like a tug down there. Home and 1st Fleet. Home Fleet. Here we are. Ooh. Home Fleet's got some game. What do we got here? We've got a total of 7 CCs, a DN, 6 vols with a crippled, and some prime teams. That's the money fleet right there. And then, of course, Hydron 1st Fleet, which I'm going to guess is, 2 vols. Okay. So the Hydrons do have some punch to fight back with. It's just the amount of stuff that the ISC keep coming at the Hydrons with it. There's not a lot to like fight back with. So let me see what else we got here. A bunch of crippled ships from the Hydrons sitting on top of a Carnivon base. Interesting. And then, of course, these are just sort of like the ships that they're using for exploration because they're continuing to explore, which is interesting to note. So dreadnoughts and tugs doing their thing. I imagine that this is this tug is extending supply to allow these ships to continue to explore. And let's roll into the Carnivon here. So we've got Fox Skulk 1 over top this base here. Fox Skulk 1. Let's look. Carnies. Where are you? Carnivon. Fox Skulk 1. So we've seen this fleet before a couple times. They've had some cripples and various things, but we can see now they've got 3 frigates, 2 drone bombardment destroyers, 3 drone bombardment cruisers, 2 cruisers with a prime team, and a YCC. So that's not nothing here. And they got a frigate. So this is sort of in a position to be able to maybe push back on 2nd Fleet if it's going to attack. Couple of crippled ships on their way back home, you could argue. And then back here we've got a YBS with a convoy, crippled frigate, and a destroyer. So one of the things to note here is that the Carnivons have a supply network that allows them to completely supply their own ships. They're not homeless ships or expeditionary fleets when it comes to the Hydrons. So they are completely self-supported, which is huge. In addition to sort of where these ships are located, you've got, a DN, a frigate. What is this? Drone bombardment cruiser. I don't like the way, there we go. Frigate, drone bombardment, the captured Lyran, a W-era cruiser. And then down here, a bunch of frigates and destroyers. Interesting. So the thing that strikes me here is there's a lot of projection of force, but the Carnivon, obviously, understandably, are a little sort of concerned, I would be, about the sort of incoming attack. And good job here. They're upgrading their YBS to a YDK here. Good. Carnivon home fleet. Let's take a look. Carnivon home fleet. Okay, that's not nothing. DN, CC with a prime team. 2 drone bombardment cruisers, 2 YCAs, 2 drone bombardment destroyers, 2 destroyers, and 5 frigates. So that's what's sitting over top of this YDK here, which is good. It makes it a very hard target. And surrounding them, they've got a bunch of frigates, tugs to be able to upgrade various bases and or build bases. And then, of course, over top of the wormhole that leads into Lyran space, we've got Den Fleet. Now, Den Fleet, of course, has a storied history on the Klingon border, but obviously has been moved. And today, It is. Oh, interesting. Okay, so Den Fleet is another dreadnought, CC, two CAs, a drone bombardment destroyer, another destroyer, two frigates, and two crippled frigates, and a couple prime teams, it looks like. Yeah. So interesting to note the combination of ships and prime teams and various things here, all coalesced on the northern border facing the ISC. Thank you, loud exhaust. So very interesting to see that here. And I'm wondering, the question is, based on what I see here, are the ISC going to stop as per our highlight headline, you know, when it comes to the war exhaustion? Are they going to continue to push down to the Carnarvon border? Because they could, and they just take out the Hydrants completely. And or how are the Carnarvons going to deal with that? And or the Remans, how are the Remans? Are the Remans going to just go straight after the Tholians? And is this going to become like is it going to partition the war? Are the Remans going to go after the Tholians and the ISC after the Carnarvon / remnants of the Hydrants? How is that going to work? Because right now, arguably, the ISC doesn't really need any help in taking out the rest of the Carnarvons and the Hydrants, because the Hydrants don't have a lot of assets to throw back, to push back on the ISC. And the Carnarvons are, it would seem, preparing defensively for what basically this onslaught that's coming. It's a rolling wave of yellow that's coming their way. How are they going to deal with it? We shall see. All right, let's look at the rest of the Carnarvon space. So interesting here, we've got... looks like, so there's a tug and survey cruiser. I'm going to guess this is all part of the free transit zone exploration, trying to open this up for the Klingons to get up there. We have a convoy exploration. So I don't know if the convoy is, well, it doesn't look like it needs to extend supply at this point, but we have a number of ships and fleets continuing to explore and push the exploration up into sort of towards the center and north. What else we got? We've got a DAD on the homeworld along with some prime teams, R&D team. We've got, other than that, not a lot of other ships, which is fine. Diplomacy team here trying to sort of improve the attitude on this minor planet. On the border with the Klingons, we've got, again, Coyote and Wolf. Just as a quick recap, what do they got? Coyote bands. So we've got a CA, CL, a drone bombardment destroyer. How many frigates is that? 5 frigates and a prime team, and that's sitting on top of their YDK. So pretty robust little hard point there. Then we've got Wolf. Carnarvon, where'd you go? Wolf pack. No change here. 3 DDs, 3 FFs, a drone bombardment destroyer, and cruiser, respectively. And that's sitting on top of the planet with a Y-era planetary ground base. Nothing too crazy. And that's what's going on with the Carnarvon. Important to note, of course, that the Carnarvon are on war turns at this point because they are continuing to fight the ISC and the Remans, respectively. I'm not sure which particular one is their focus right now, but continuing to fight the fight when it comes to the tide that is flooding their way. All right, and let's round off our discussion and exploration today with the faction with the most, the one that got spanked on that thumbnail, the one, the only Klingon Empire. Well, let's get down to the highlight reel and talk about this little bad boy right here. So what happened was Raider fleet was positioned here, and the because I can be provocative, maybe. I'm gonna pull up the email that I wrote. Where did I put it? See, if I had planned this ahead of time, I would have just had it ready to go. Where is the... I'm looking for the... Oh, I think this is it. Aha! Okay. So, once the Juggernaut showed up... Here, I'll go back to this. Once the Juggernaut showed up into Klingon space, the Klingons saw them move. They were moving into the fog of war hexes, and from my perspective, I wanted to engage them. I wanted them to move towards me, and so I could attack them. However, because the Juggernauts don't have supply into Klingon space, the assumption that I was operating on is that basically all of Klingon space is fog of war to them, and they can't move in such a way that they can move more than one hex at a time. So based on that assumption, and knowing that they were just south of their gravity well, and I'll show you that in a minute, I did this. Transmission to Raider 1 fleet in the vicinity of Foxtrot 51. Unknown vessels. You have entered Imperial Klingon territory. Proceed to Sector Hotel 50 for inspection. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your vessels. Well, on the bridge of the IKV Skull Throne, which is the command ship that this was sent from, my lord, the transmission has been sent. Shall we expect compliance? I certainly hope not. Based on our intelligence, we have merely provided them a target. Whether or not they are interested in the prey provided, we will have to see. What is the status of fleet assets? My lord, Red Fleet is now underway. The uprising at V delayed their departure by 6 months. Battle Group Blood has relieved them, and they expect to be within the area of operations within 12 months, which is 2 turns. Shipyards report near maximum production with newly commissioned ships to Joint Task Group Alpha upon completion. Regional assets are being diverted, and we can expect the full fleet strength on station within 12 months. Excellent. I will look forward to this weighty challenge. A prelude for what awaits us, no? The question is, will they accept our invitation to aggressive negotiations? So that was what I put out there, and the GM was kind enough to respond in such a way to to have the Raider move basically towards Hotel 50. But because apparently I had not realized this, but they had already explored this a certain area of this space, they moved from, and I will go back to the map here so you can see it, they moved from this hex right here, just south of the gravity well, and they went 1, 2, 3, right here, because this is where I had some ships. They moved before I did. So they moved, engaged these ships, and or I think it was maybe they encountered me in GG49. They moved up this way, saw the ships, moved to attack, and then or no, sorry, they were in Hotel 49, right over top of this resource. And then I have other ships moving down towards this area. They were going to move into this hex. So when the ships moved into the adjacent hex right beside it, the Juggernauts reacted into that hex and attacked. That sucked. So, as a result, this is where the Juggernauts are. No casualties to the Juggernauts. I lost 4, count them, 4 F4s. Now, why is that? So when you initially, and this is discussed in our combat tutorial, when you initially have combat, there's a couple of things you can do initially. And one of the options is to withdraw before combat. But when you withdraw before combat, there's a couple things. One, you can only withdraw 50% of your fleet or leave as many ships in the hex as there are attacking ships. So in this case, their ships surpass mine, so I can withdraw 50% of those ships. 2, you have to leave one of the 3 top command ship candidates in your fleet to control those ships. Now for me, I had 2 D4Cs, or command ships, command cruisers, and then 2 F4s in each encounter. The F4 was one of the 3 top command ships, therefore I could withdraw the 2 cruisers and leave the 2 destroyers for the round of combat. However, there are 3-4 ships, which means there was a total of 8 defense. And then when they're crippled, basically they're like, how much is it? F4. Hold on. Let's look up Klingon, JTFA. I'll show you this here. So when an F4 is crippled, it becomes a straight 2. So that basically means that there was a total of 12 defensive factors that could be destroyed in a single round of combat. If we look at the if we look at the minor fleets or the Juggernaut Raider fleet, we will see that they have a Mauler, which can do 1-to-1 directed damage on a target at a total of 12 damage. This entire fleet can generate over 40 points of collective damage. So we've got 12 plus 15 is 27, plus 8 is 35, plus 12 is 47. 47 total damage, and if you round that off to about 30%, which I would say is an average for the burr, let's just do some quick math. 47 times 0.3 is 14.1 points of damage. So we can safely say that they could have done 12 points of damage in one shot. That would have crippled and destroyed both those ships. And then there's a pursuit round if for whatever reason they survived. Long story short, I lost 2 destroyers in each encounter, so I lost a total of 4 destroyers. However, all is not lost, because now, what do we have? Let's move that out of the way. I'll put this over my head. We now have Joint Task Force Gamma and Alpha within striking distance of the Raider fleet. Let's pull up Joint Task Force Gamma. So this fleet is the command cruisers that were retreating from the encounter with the Juggernauts. So we have 2 command cruisers and a prime team, another command cruiser and 2 cruisers. I have 5 cruisers, 6, and then another 4 here, a total of 10 destroyers. So that's 15 ships ready to go. And then Red Fleet, you can see here, is also... Oh, goodness, where am I going to find you, Red Fleet? Duras? There we are. So Red Fleet is also another 4 F4s. So the 4 F4s plus the 10 that are already there, that's 14, and then 5 of their cruisers means that there is a really good chance that I can at least cripple and drive these bastards back to where they came from. So, yeah, we'll see how this works out. Incidentally, South Fleet, just for reference, is a crippled E2, so there's nothing really much there. But I can uncripple it and make its way sort of in this direction, depending on where the Raider goes, if it goes north or wherever it goes. If it moves 1 hex at a time, maybe it'll go to Hotel 50. We'll see. But we'll see what happens. I can build more ships and send them out, but we're just going to have to see how that all sort of pans out in the end. Long story short, as per the thumbnail, the Klingons got spanked. Got caught with my pants down and got a little bit embarrassed. But that's okay. That's no problem. Bring it on, tough guy, I say to the Juggernauts. Let's see what you got. So, lost 4, which is annoying, destroyers, but I got lots of ships in that area, and we're going to see how that sort of pans out in the end. Other than that, not much else to discuss. As you can see, I've got a fleet of ships sort of in the northern area pushing towards the center. We've got a base under construction here. The big headline is the Juggernauts and seeing what's going to happen there. Other than that, we've got, this is a tug. East Fleet is a tug with a prime team. Tug for the Klingons is a cruiser hull. So a cruiser hull with a prime team is like any of the cruisers with a prime team to be able to hopefully, potentially, successfully explore these Fog of War hexes. So that's what's going on there. We've got a tug here that's going to drop off its planetary ground base and build a base on the planet, and then facilitate the kind of extension up, or the supply route up the FTZ zone to potentially get involved with the Tholians and or whatever is going to be ended up happening up here. And that's pretty much it. Not too much exciting, I will say, from the Klingon side, if only just because it's all about them Juggernauts, baby. So, with that said, let's jump into the chit-chat right away. I see Eugene. Question about strat moves in this game. In F&E rules, as I understand them, you can move a limited number of ships, an unlimited number of hexes. Here, a limited number of ships can move a limited number of spaces. So yes, long story short, when it comes to strategic movement, there is a technology around strategic movement. There's two things. For the number of ships, you can strat move one ship times the number of YDKs that you have, or star bases, but in the early era it's YDKs, times the number of YDKs by 0.5. So half the number of YDKs. So if I have 2 YDKs, I add one more ship that I can strat move. Make sense? So there's a technology with that, and that increases with time. So eventually it goes to 1 to 1, then 1.5, and then 2, and various things like that. For distance is based on your operational movement times 1.5, and then you get to a point where it goes by 2, and then I think it goes by 3. So your combination of your operational movement plus the technology for strat movement will increase the range at which you can push out your ships for strat movement. However, any ship that is repaired and or newly constructed has a free strat move. So in a round where you repair ships, you can then free strat move them to where they need to go, and or when you construct them, they can free strat move. And I'll give you an example. When we look at the Klingon map, the Klingon homeworld is right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is 5 hexes away. Current operational movement range or speed for Y airships is 4. However, with the current state of my strat move, which is 1.5, and I imagine all the other factions are probably pretty close to that, if not the same, then with 4 hexes, I can strat move them 6. So as these ships are built, they will strat move. I strat move them to here. However, by example, if I build new ships here and I operationally move them 1, 2, 3, 4, they could potentially encounter the raiders if they were into the Hotel 49 hex, which would be interesting. So it'll be interesting to see where the raiders go and how that works. But there is a real good possibility that I could potentially get the raiders into Hotel 49 and engage them there. We'll see how that goes. But they only move 1 hex. Well, I believed past tense that they would only move 1 hex in my space. Who knows where they'll move at this point? We'll have to see. So hopefully that answers your question, Eugene. Yes, so strat move, there is a limit on the number and there is a limit on the distance. It's based on the technologies that you have. And then, of course, if you build something and or repair something, it has a free strat move. Fair? Jim, currently players are at either 1.5 times or 2 times strat movement distance. So what I just kind of described. Limited by the number of YDKs you have, as I mentioned. Klingons, still going it alone, not interested in enacting the Carney Klingon Defense Pact regarding Juggies. So I did get an offer from the Carnivons to be able to assist with our Juggernaut faction, but due to the distances involved, like it's on the other side of my empire, and the Carnivons would have to send their ships quite a distance to get involved. It's not worth it. Don't worry about it. No big deal. Besides, they've got other problems. Let's see. Yeah, E1 can escort them to keep them on task. Without a doubt. That E1 just keeps everybody, from doing the wrong thing. My E1 captain is like, he's like Herculean hero in the Klingon Navy. Love it. There is one more time you get a free strat move. Oh, Chuck, when is the one more time that you get a free strat move? Do tell. Enlighten me. Let me know what is that one more time. Jim, Juggies are going to beat Red Fleet. Well, of course they'll beat Red Fleet. Red Fleet's only 4 F4s, so we shall see. I have no doubt that they will absolutely decimate Red Fleet if Red Fleet were to encounter them straight on. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. All right. Lucky number 13. We are at 13 concurrent viewers right now. Thank you very much for sticking with us this far. Let me take this moment now to talk about the announcement of our Into the Void campaign and what's going on there. So it is now July 2nd. The Into the Void campaign is about to start. Players have been identified and selected. Our GM has hopefully sent out an email to all those folks. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. Sent out an email to all the players in the faction. They may not all have Discord access just now, but we are having an all-hands meeting for those members in the game on Sunday at 10 o'clock Pacific time. And so that's going to be a meeting for everybody who's in the campaign to be able to confirm that you have all the files and everything else that you need as far as like knowing how to use Vassal. Do you have a copy of the rules that you've purchased? Do you have access to your Google Sheets to be able to submit your turns? All the logistics stuff to be able to make this game work. So that'll be happening at 10 o'clock Pacific time on our Discord channel. If you don't already have Discord access, then please head over to the Patreon and or Coffee link to be able to get yourself Discord access with some support. And or if those emails haven't already gone out, after this live stream is done, we'll meet up on Discord and we'll discuss making sure that everybody knows and has access to Discord and so on. So yeah, that's happening, and like I say, it's going to be recorded on our end and made available to all the members on Discord to be able to check out and look and reference as we go forward. So fundamentally, we're getting that campaign underway. And yeah, it's July. Let's get going. Into the Void is on the roll or on the move. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to start creating content around how that game evolves. I still got a lot of love for the Klingons, but this guy is going to be playing the ISC in the next campaign. I have a whole backstory about that character, or like the character or the story behind that faction, and I will share that with you in videos to come. But that is coming in the weeks to come throughout July. So interested and exciting to see how that's going to evolve. Oops, Jim says. New builds. That's right. Hold on. What are we saying here? Chuck. One more strat move. Juggies are going to beat Red Fleet. Bill says new builds. I mentioned new builds. So new builds repairs get free strat moves. It's also out of... I don't know what NGE is of your other fleets. Is that supposed to be range? Is that an RNG? I'm seeing it as an M. Okay, RNG, range of your other fleets. It's also out of range of your other fleets. No red fleets within 4 hexes of not only of the raiders. So wherever the raiders move, assuming they move 1 hex, I'll be able to get them with red fleet. And Joint Task Force Alpha and Gamma will be able to, and potentially ships from the homeworld will be able to be included in that as well. So we'll have to see. Yes, range. When you react ships from mothball. Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay. I've never actually used mothball, so I haven't looked up those rules. So when you reactivate ships from mothball, they can be strat move. That makes total sense too. All right. When you bring ships out of mothball, they get a free strat move. Fair. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we've talked about the round the clock. We've talked about, as far as the stories that we've discussed today, we have discussed the war marching on, but is it getting tired as far as the ISC and the Remans and Hydrons and Carnivon running out of or getting into war exhaustion? We've talked the Raiders of the Lost Ships, the Juggernaut Raider fleet coming in, causing havoc and killing 4 of my F4s. We talked about the threading of the needle and sort of what I refer to as the Reman spring cleaning, as the Tholian Webs have started to gather around different parts of former Hydron space, and the Remans are in there with their broom and duster sweeping them out. And then, of course, we've discussed the conflict between the Gorn and the Romulans. Before I go any further, I want to take a quick second and thank all those folks who are our Coffee and Patreon supporters. Sir Clean Gene, Logan, Daniel, our GM, the great Hydrax, 34th God King Pharaoh of the 6th Dynasty. I wonder who that is. Robert Martin and Big Slow Target, our various coffee supporters, either with monthly and or one-time donations. And, of course, our Patreon supporters, woo, there goes my coffee, Dan Knudsen, Scott Lyons, William Linton, Stephen Ryder, and, of course, Paul Johnson. If you are interested in helping and supporting this channel, then please feel free to use that QR code right there, and or that link to head over to Coffee to be able to support us, and or if Patreon's more your style, the Patreon link is in the description as well. You can check that out. All of these links are in the description. You can check them out at your convenience. Thank you so much. All right, Well, let's see now. Before we sort of sign off for the day, anything else that anyone wants to bring up or discuss in today's episode? I will try and babble on for about 2 more minutes here while the chat populates with any more other questions or issues that you want to bring up. I will say I'm very interested and excited to see who in this faction comes out with MTech first, because I get this like hair rising on the back of my head. I know hair, head, for me that's not a big thing, but I feel like the hair is rising on the back of my head, and I can feel something's coming when it comes to MTech. Somebody's going to get it. Somebody's going to drop that hammer. Something exciting is going to occur when it comes to MTech. Is it going to be the Remans or the IC? If they do, well, that'll be interesting. If they do, and or maybe it's the Gorn. I have a real suspicion about the Tholians. Maybe the Federation. Who knows? It'll be very interesting to see how that sort of tech piece evolves and who shows up with MTech first. Very, very interesting. Can the pirates be activated to investigate the stable warp signal? 2 birds, or in this case, 3 Klingon fleets to beat in detail. Yeah, of course, I need 3. The Juggernauts are a big, bad obstacle. It's gonna take a while to beat them. So can the pirates be activated to investigate the stable warp signal? Let's go quickly to the map and show you what Eugene is referring to. So at the top here, we have noticed this unknown stabilized warp signal or signature. So yes, I would argue that the Orions can be activated, but only activated by either the Remans, possibly the ISC, and or the Hydrons and Carnivon to be able to do that. I can't, just because I don't have reach or supply to those particular Orions, and I can't sort of affect or influence them. But yes, arguably they can be, just someone else is going to have to do it. Depending on the supply status of the Tholians, potentially the Tholians could do it, because they're on that side of the wormhole as well. Next few turns, MTech will appear, Jim says. Yes, but who is going to have it? Who is going to have MTech, and how is that going to change or not change the flow of the game? I'm very curious to see how that's going to pan out, because I think that's going to be a real game changer, depending on who gets it, when they get it, and what the result is. Like, for example, the Federation, when they get MTech, not much changes. They get to be able to build their CLM, or light cruiser, in the middle era. And that's a great ship. It moves. It has a 5/5, 5 attack, 5 defense, and it can move 6. But that's it for a while. They don't get other ships right off the bat. They eventually start to get the OCA, the old cruiser, or old cruiser. But they don't get the CAM. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So all that to say, different factions have different introduction dates for different hulls, depending when they get to those different factions, or that different tech level. What'll be interesting to see is factions like the Carnivon, at least on this map, the Carnivon, the ISC, and I believe the Gorn get their stuff sort of up front. Klingons, and Tholians probably. The Klingons, the Federation, the Romulans, and I'm going to guess the Lyrans as well. Some of the more traditional factions on the normal tabletop game, they get it later. Or it's more flushed out, the introduction dates, and spread out. So, it'll be really interesting to see when and what ships come when, and what that looks like, because it'll be very, very interesting. To some players, it's meh tech. Yeah, sure, it's meh. Dell doesn't seem to mind. He doesn't think it's going to be an issue. We'll see. We'll see. All right, as you can maybe perhaps hear, my fellow Canadians are out riding their various motorcycles and high exhaust cars outside my window, so it's getting a little noisy here. I'll take this opportunity to be able to wish you all a Happy Canada Day weekend if you're in Canada. Happy 4th of July weekend if you are south of the border in the United States. And of course, if you don't live in any one of those countries, then I am sure you join me in wishing Canadians and Americans a wonderful long weekend. And of course, you having a wonderful weekend too, wherever you are joining us from. I hope and wish that you all have a good time, and I will see you next week for the update on what happens with the Juggies. Are we going to stomp them? Are we going to take them out? Is that warp signature, that unknown warp signature, going to be investigated by either the Hydron and or the Orions? What's going to happen with the Tholians? Are they going to spread their webs further? Are they going to project force through that wormhole, through the 2 different wormholes they have access to? Or are the Remans going to do the exact same thing and start pushing into Tholian space? Who knows? Only time will tell, but you can join us next week on Saturday at 11 o'clock here live to stay up to date on what's going on and or catch the replay when it comes out. I look forward to seeing you next week at 11 o'clock, joining us for that live stream. Until then, ladies, gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.